Welcome back to Go and Tell It. We got a video this time. We're going to still put it on Spotify. And the sound guy fixed his mistake last time. Sorry I was so low. But I don't know. What do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I think we have I think we have a lot to talk about. I got some good news this week about the illnesses that I'm suffering with that we talked about in our last episode. I got some answers from a new doctor, and I'm thrilled about that. It looks to be some long-term fixes, I guess. I don't know the word to use, but so it's on the upswing. So I thank the Lord for that. I thank the Lord that He got me into that doctor and able to get some answers. If you cannot tell, this is our first video, and we are coming to you from our living room, and we do not have the best lighting, so we're doing the best that we can, but we're going to hope to improve as we go on. If you're watching us on YouTube, on Spotify, we don't have a video, but if you want to follow us on YouTube is where we're going to be posting our videos, and it's the same name, Go and Tell It Podcast. Find us over there if you want to see our faces. You can see the famous red beard that Neil has.
Yeah, that's the only way people know me is my beard. If I shaved it off, nobody would figure out who I was. I don't even know if I'd know who I was, but it's part of it. It's me, so whatever.
I do want to say a big thank you to those of you who have listened to our first podcast and given us such positive feedback. It really means a lot to us that we have some supporters on our side that, really enjoyed what we talked about and wanted to spend time with us out of their busy days and schedules. So we really, really appreciate you guys and all the good, positive comments that you've given us.
Yeah. So maybe with your support, we can get a better studio.
We'll try.
Yeah. So we've got our mics dialed up. We've got the gains fixed. That's what the problem was last time. I thought I'd turn my gain up, but I'd actually turned it down. And we're new here. Hang with us. We're trying our best. We'll learn as we go. And I am definitely not an electronics computer guru, so I have to figure all this out on our own as we go. But with all that being said, welcome to Go and Tell It. So we were talking earlier about what should we talk about, and we were like, well, I don't know, but you were saying, by the way, I'm Neil, this is Andrea, Go and Tell It. I don't know if we said that earlier, but you were talking earlier like you wanted to tell some how God watches over us in everyday life, and we don't even pay attention until we've come across a bad situation, and when we step out of it, we look at it like, wow, He was in control the whole time, and I was just waiting for the outcome, and I'm glad I made it out. But the only way I made it out was God had His hand on me, Jesus was sitting beside of me, whatever, say in a vehicle, so to speak, right?
Yeah. We were at church today, and I was thinking about what we should maybe talk about for our next episode. And we were talking about the podcast at church with a few people that had listened to it. And it hit me that everybody goes through similar things. And sometimes on the daily, we go through things with like driving a car and car accidents and crazy drivers and road rage and
daily.
and all of that comes with it. And a story popped into my mind that happened to us when my daughter was, I think she was 3 or 4, and my son is a little bit older, and we were headed to a birthday party. And I was taking the back roads because from our house to where the birthday party is, I could take the back roads there.
Yeah.
And
if you live in the country, you know what we're talking about. You don't have to run to town, get on the interstate, go 4 exits down, when you can just cut through 2 country roads and you're in the same spot in half the time.
Right. So our kids were at my parents' house, and I'd stopped and picked them up on the way to the birthday party, and my daughter was running a fever, so we weren't going to stay. We were just going to drop off the present, say happy birthday, leave, because she's sick, and I didn't want to get all the other, kids and parents exposed to that. So we were headed to this birthday party, and we were going down the road, and a young teenage driver was coming out of his driveway, and he didn't stop. He didn't hit the brakes. He didn't anything, and he plowed right into the front passenger side tire of my Jeep that I was driving at the time. And it's a 1-lane road, and he was here and I was here, and right here was a straight drop off. I mean, straight drop off down. And there was a mailbox there at another driveway, and he hit me, and it hit the tire. It knocked the whole front end out from under the Jeep, but the tire started, and I was like, get the kids out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car, because I didn't know if it was going to explode. I didn't know at the time it was the tire. I thought it was the engine. And we got out of the car, got the kids out of the car, got them over, out of the road, and that everybody was fine. Nobody got hurt. And afterwards, I looked over there, and I thought, there is no way but God's hand that I did not go over the side of that hill, because he hit me so hard that, it, hit the Jeep came up, he hit me so hard that I should have went over, and we would have rolled, and
that was a bad spot.
We would have gotten hurt, really bad, all of us. And it was only with his protection that I didn't even hit the lone mailbox that was there. Like, how that car stayed on the road after it got hit at such a force that the whole front end got shoved out from under it. It was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage that he had done to this car. There's no way that we shouldn't have went over the hill.
Yeah, when I got there, all 4 tires were still on the blacktop.
Yeah.
Even though a couple of them were flat, and they weren't in the positions that they were originally in, because the front axle was literally pushed back up under, like, where the seats were.
Yeah.
The body didn't look like it was even touched, though, was the weird thing. It was just the axle and all the drivetrain components under.
Yeah, just the way that he hit... It was a miracle. It really was a miracle. And I think about that, Rick, especially when I drive past that spot sometimes, how it really was God that saved us that day.
Yeah. And I felt bad for the kid, too, because he was a young driver, maybe been driving a year or so, but the driveway that he came out of was gravel, and it was a downhill slope to the blacktop, and he was probably going a little fast and went to hit the brakes because, a country road, you can just run up, pull out on it, give it a quick glance back and forth. And when he came down, he didn't have a chance, because as soon as Andrea got there, he had to lock it up. Of course, what happens when you're on gravel? We've all watched the movies or driven a gravel road ourselves, and you slide a little farther because you're on marbles. So
I think he was late to work, too, if I remember correctly.
Oh, well.
He was in a hurry, he was in a rush, and he just didn't look, and he felt terrible. It wasn't I wasn't mad at him or anything like that. He was a nice kid, and but I think we've all had those situations that we look back on after the moment's up, because in the moment you're not thinking about that.
Yeah, but adrenaline's running.
But afterwards we look back and go, man, God's hands were all over that. Safety, protection, decisions, choices, all of the things that go along with life. At the time, we're thinking about other things, but he really does have his hands over everything.
So I think where the body never had any damage on it, that it's almost like when you was a kid and you reached down to pick up your Hot Wheels, you just picked it up and lifted it and set it right back down. That had to have been what happened,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way of explaining that one. That was crazy.
It really was. Do you have a story like that?
Well, we off-road a little bit. I've always got stories like that, where you're in a tight situation and you go into it in the off-roading world to try to conquer trails and see what best lines and see if you can get your rig through the obstacle, I guess, so to say. And but I've probably got one that's, well, there's been several of those Jeep rides that you've been on with me where you can't see this on Spotify, but if you're watching us on YouTube on the video, I know we're in a hairy situation. It doesn't really bother me as much, but I know it's hairy to Andrea if she's got her head tucked down looking at her lap. Well, I asked her one day, I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "How are you going to see what's going on with your heads tucked?" She says, "I am praying. Leave me alone."
And I do.
Well, every time we go riding, I look over at her. She's always got her head down. So, but we've had several of those. A short one. We went with some guys that were a whole lot more advanced than my ride was. My ride is the Jeep that she just got done destroying. So the body's in great shape, and we got it back from the auto body repair place, and they had went through and replaced all the drivetrain under it and saved it. And well, they tried to put used parts in there, but they couldn't get it aligned because the new axle that they had installed had been hit also or bowed or something. So they end up having to put all new parts in there, which you would think they would do that if you're paying good money for insurance. But I guess they've got to cut corners where they can too to try to save some money. But not good for us in the long run, I guess. But anyway, once that came back, we drove it probably a month or two, and it started the classic death wobble. I don't know if anybody's Jeepers or four-wheel drive off-roaders out there. Death wobble is when you hit a bump or hit a bridge just the right way, and your whole front axle just starts shimmying back and forth so violently that your steering wheel shakes and you have no control over it other than just push the brakes down and ride it out until it comes to a stop. And it's pretty violent if you've never had partake in any of those. But this one had it real bad. 40 mile an hour, you hit a bridge, 30 to 40 mile an hour, you hit a bridge just right. And it would start hopping so bad in the front that you would just hold on to the steering wheel and it just shaking the far out of you. Your feelings about to fall out of your teeth and holding the brake. And all of a sudden, slowly you'll come to a stop and it starts getting back in rhythm. So that happened once or twice. And that was the end of you driving that one. You said, "I am not driving that no more. We either trade it in or go get me something and then you can have it." I said, "Say what? You want to do what with that Jeep?" And it's my Jeep. I can do what I want to with it. You said, "Yeah, go have fun with it."
Yep.
Whew. Many a dollar bill, blood, sweat, and tears, and some professional words later. We've all got our downfalls. We're all not perfect. If we was perfect, we'd be walking with Jesus. But I think they should have in the Bible, or not the Bible, but in the in church, they should give freebies to mechanics. So, but anyway, that Jeep that she wrecked ended up becoming what we went out and go our four-wheeling trips with. So, long story short, back we'd met some people at a Great American Crawl event that he came through, and he had hit me up and said, "Hey man, we're going to be back down your area if you'd like to ride with us." Well, these guys have got these big rock bouncer tube chassis, 10,000 horsepower buggies, and here I am with a stock motor Jeep that's just been lifted up with some big axles and tires, and now it'll go for what it is, but it's a big bodied rig, and everybody says that about it. And these guys are small package that can just wiggle through all the cracks and stuff. But so I hadn't. Once you start wheeling and you start upgrading a vehicle, this is in anything you do, for anything from drag racing to autocross to wheeling, is once you start the upgrades, it's a chain reaction after that. As soon as you put big tires on there, everything behind those big tires gets weaker. And the bigger tire you go, the quicker it gets weaker. So I'd done quite a bit of the chain link all the way through the build, and I'd put tires and axles and drive shafts and everything. The only thing that I didn't do was the steering, and it was getting us by, but it was not the best. You know, we get in a bad spot, you couldn't turn the steering wheel and whatever. But we are out wheeling with these guys, and we wheeled all day with them. And it was right a little after lunch, I guess. We went to this place called the Waterfall, and it's just this hardcore rock crawling creek that stays fairly dry most of the time. And the waterfall is like a ledge on it. It's about 4 or 5 foot ledge, and real big nasty rock ledge on it. So they had all went through it, and they had beat and bashed their buggies to get up through it. And then I said, well, we'll give it a try. I get up on it, I pop my front tires up on it, and I give it one little good bump, and boom! Guess what breaks? The steering system. So I'm like, what are we going to do now? So the part on the steering that broke, it wasn't like you could just put a ratchet strap on it and take off. It was the sector shaft that comes out of the steering gearbox for all you gearheads out there. So what that is there's a shaft that comes out of there's a shaft that connects to your steering wheel, goes down to the steering gearbox that it changes the turn of your wheel to a gearing system down to your drop pitman arm, which there's a couple tie rods that makes your tires turn left and right. You can see me on YouTube, Spotify. I'm taking my hands and kind of motioning traffic a little bit. But so that shaft that comes out of that box that connects to the drop pitman arm, that's what broke in half. Like one of the worst things ever that could break in your steering system. But that's a result of having 43-inch tires. So we were all like, oh, now what? What do we do? How far up was that trail was we? We was probably 2-3 miles up this trail of hardcore rocks. So the guys with me, we all start getting a game plan together. We get me back off this waterfall, and our best plan of action was to go down the creek. As Bear Grylls always says, you always follow water downhill to find civilization. That's the easiest way out. It was a whole lot easier than going up, I'll tell you that. But so we get it turned around, and that was a whole ordeal because we had to. I could still drive forward and reverse, but I had to have somebody outside turn my wheels, and we had another Jeep or one of those buggies hooked to me, trying to pull me around as I was giving mine gas, and about turned it over 2 or 3 times there. I seen you with the head ducked down on the side over on the bank. She was not in the Jeep with me at this point. So, we wiggled back and forth. You ever heard of the term 40-point turn? We probably did about 100. A wiggle in this little tight creek to get turned around. It's kind of like that movie that was Austin Powers where he was stuck in that tunnel, back and forth. I don't know. I don't know which movie. I think it was Austin Powers, but that's what it felt like. But we got turned around, and at this point, I'm starting to get freaked out. Like it's settling in. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be tough getting us out of here. What do I do? And plus, I'm in the Jeep by myself, pondering my thoughts of, you idiot, why didn't you didn't, I didn't know to fix it at the time, but I do know now. I have learned a lot on this build. So we are sitting there, and I look over at Andrea, and she's sitting on this rock on the bank watching me, and she's got my phone filming this whole ordeal. And these guys are, one guy's giving me a suggestion here. This other guy's saying, no, well, let's do it this way. No, let's do it this way. Blah, 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 back and forth by about 6 people. And this one guy says, let's take a strap and put from side to side, one at each tire, and we'll hook to the back of my buggy. And when I pull one way, all I have to do is hold a little bit on the brake, and it'll automatically turn my wheels that way. And we all kind of looked at him like, that's the craziest thing. I've never pulled a vehicle by the tie rods. But this one had the heavier duty set up on it. It had the heavier axles, and it could have done that. It just didn't have the heavy duty sector shaft and steering box and all that stuff. But so we hooked it up and we tried it. Well, it started working. And so we start going down this creek. And, this Jeep's still nice and shiny and pretty and this and that. You could almost car show with it, which I almost went that route, but I started wheeling it.
They're pulling us. We're not driving ourselves.
Yeah, they're pulling us. All I'm doing is sitting inside with the Jeep running, and I hit my brakes when I want to turn, because when I tighten up the strap from holding the brake, it pulls my wheels to the direction of the buggy in front of me. But and on a bad obstacle, I can help because I've still got my gas and my throttle and my brake. So and my drive line, just no steering. So we start going down the creek, and he's dragging me through bushes and brush, and limbs, and it's scratching the Jeep all to pieces and this and that. And we get to this one point, real bad spot. Like we barely got through it. It was just as rough going downhill as it was going up, and my anxiety was going crazy. I was starting to get nervous. These guys, I knowed them, but I'd only known them for a short time. And the rule is, whoever you go in the woods with, you come out with. I mean, you don't leave anybody behind, because they're your only saving grace, or you're theirs, whoever's broke down. So in the middle of all of this going on, all of a sudden the noise just kind of stopped to me, and I started, and I stopped, and I was like, what? All the noise stopped, and I'm seeing all these guys running around my Jeep, hooking this up, hooking that up, pushing this, pushing that. They look like a NASCAR pit crew when they come in to change 4 tires and take on a load of fuel, and setting the tow and pulling the sticker off the windshield and wiping the debris off the front grill to get fresh airflow. And like I said, all the sound just quit. And I'm watching these guys do this, and I'm looking around like, what's going on? All of a sudden something said to me, it said, why are you so upset? Look at these guys, what I'm doing for you right now. And I just start, where is this coming from? Like,
Yeah.
Who is talking to me? It's not like coming through my ears, it's just coming through my head. And he said, why are you so upset? Just, what's the Bible verse that says, be still? I've got this,
be
pretty
still
much.
And know I am God.
Yeah, be still and know I am God. And that's pretty much what he told me right there. And once that hit, it was like, it was just like I chilled. Like it was just a sigh of relief. Like, okay, God, you got this. I'm just going to sit back and let you do your work. And he had those guys working for me like I was paying them $100 an hour. And those guys muscled my Jeep out of those woods. And we got down to the blacktop where I could drag a trailer up and back up to it and drag it up on there. It was a feeling like no other. Just I don't know how to explain it, other than that was God telling me to take a chill pill. I got this. Look at these guys doing everything they need to do for you. Sit back. We got this. We're going to get out of this. And that's what happened. Once I did that, I was kind of starting to get in panic mode, and my anxiety was going through the roof. Didn't know what to do, because usually I'm the one that has to bail me out of the situation. But he said, I got this. You just sit there and be still. Let it happen. And it did,
It did.
So, but, it's never just as easy as that with us. We I was chill after that. And like I said, the way I was steering was I had this, I think his true horsepower was like 900 horsepower buggy in front of me. Nasty sound. And if you were a gearhead, you would have loved to hear this thing run. Hitting on the old Chevy guys used to say potato, 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 potato. How those cams hitting those motors. But this guy, when he tromped it, that thing hopped up in the air when he took off. But so he was pulling me out, and we're going in and out of this creek, up and down on the banks and back and forth the way the trail system ran. And there's this one section that goes high up above the creek, probably about 50 or 60 feet up on the bank. And it goes around this old telephone pole. Well, the telephone pole is on the upper side of the hill. And I'm looking at this thing like, this is a goat path, and we're dragging an elephant through it. And, compared to all the other buggies, I am the elephant. And so I see this thing. This is coming up on this little skinny narrow spot. So on one side we've got the hill going up and the telephone pole, which we have to go around. So if you've got a running driving buggy, you wiggle around it and you can handle the throttle and the brakes or whatever you need to do it, and steer. That's what we didn't have, steering. So I'm watching this coming up, and I glance over at Andrea, and she's already got her head down, and I'm thinking to myself, do not look up, because I'm getting nervous on this one. This is going to be pucker situation right here. And because on the low side that we're going around is that 50 to 60 foot drop off over into the creek. Whew. I'm getting excited just thinking about this one, but we got up to that, and I'm looking at this guy in front of me. He can't see me. I think he had one little mirror, and I could just see maybe one eye. So I start slowly giving it some brake, and I hear his motor start revving up because he's having to pull more because I'm holding the brake to keep that steering tight in between us. And we got up to that, and I was like, don't slow down. Whatever you got to do, just throw the cold to it if you have to. And we get up to it, and I hold the brakes. I would give one more glance over to Andrea, and then the next glance was looking over the hill, and I'm just making sure. I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be nasty, hard. The seat, I was holding onto the seat without my hands, so to speak, if you know what I'm saying. But we got up to it and went right around it like we was on flat ground. I was like, huh. And I got to thinking again. He said he had us. Trust. You got to trust him. When he says he's got you, he's got you. But
at that moment, he was probably like, oh, God, quit saying my name.
Yeah. He was probably like, man, I told you 15 times.
Because I'm over there just saying, help us, Jesus.
Yeah. So the guy pulling me, his buggy kept overheating because he's a high performance rig and he's big horsepower. It ain't meant for pulling elephants through goat trails like mine. But we get down to an easy spot. We're about out of this, and he has to stop and let his buggy cool down. When we got out, I almost ran up and give him a hug because I told him, I said, dude, he said, and he turned around to me before I could even say anything. He said, man, I got you. I seen that same hairy spot, and I was getting ready to put all 900 horsepower on that strap. I said, thank God, because I needed something to pull that seat back out of me. But anyway,
our dogs just ran in here.
Just came in here.
So if you hear them, that's our dogs.
Yeah, but long story short, it was a crazy day out wheeling. Had a good time. Those guys haven't asked me to come back. Come on, dogs. Oh, we're back. Oh, I don't know. What is going on with this thing? How do you lock it? You're going to fix this
Just
thing.
leave it. Just leave it.
No, come fix it.
I know, that's what I'm telling you. Leave it.
Oh, it's always excitement with us. I think, yeah, it's all right. That'll work.
We're paused. I just paused it.
Well, we're not paused on there.
No, we're not, but we're paused on the computer.
You hit this.
Yeah, that's what I hit.
All right. Yeah, all right. Sorry about that. Spotify, where a dog came in and knocked over a camera,
Pulled the computer
cord and everything, but whatever. So anyway,
he wanted to tell you all hi.
Yeah, he's always got to be right in your face. He's a pretty good old dog, though.
Now here comes the cat. He's in the way too.
Yeah. So, but that's just some crazy stuff. I think probably one just as impressive as that, and it wasn't anything to do with being in a situation where you're either going to lose control, maybe wreck, or be in danger. We had a big flood in East Kentucky here several years ago. I don't remember what year it was, but it pretty much wiped out East Kentucky and a lot of hollers and hills. And so I've got family back there. That's where I'm originally from. And I called my uncle up. He got hit about pretty good. And I asked him, I said, can I come up and help? I've got a tractor. I've got a bucket. I've got scraper blades. I said, let me bring you some supplies, whatever. At first he was like, no, I think we're good. And then he called me back and he said, yeah, if you could come down, one of my other uncles was going to be there also. And he was helping him out, get the mud. He probably had probably a foot of mud in the basement of his house. There was just this sediment left over from after the water receded. And it washed out half his backyard. He had a creek run through his backyard, and it washed it out, and it wiped out his garage, which had his cars in it, and his boat. He had his pontoon boat got stopped by a tree at the edge of his yard. It was the only reason it get washed off. But anyway, he called me up and he said, yeah, come on. I said, I could use your help. And I was like, all right. I was like, me and Katie will come on down. We'll load up the truck and put the tractor on it and head your way.
That's our daughter.
Yeah, Katie's our daughter. And so we loaded up my tractor with a bucket and the forks and anything we could use to take with us, and headed East Kentucky, and smooth sailing all the way down. But once I got about Jackson area on 15 off the Mountain Parkway, that's when you really seen the devastation of all this flood water. And it just happened, like, I don't know, it just took off raining, and all of a sudden we had all this flood water coming off these hills, and it had nowhere to go in these creeks and hollers. But anyway, Jackson, you got down there and it was like, holy cow, look at all this mess. Because 15 sits quite a ways above the river. There's some spots that it was a couple 100 feet up, and I swear the water was over the guardrail, because the guardrail caught most of the debris in the road, because there was guys out there pulling all the debris and the trash out. So it was, I've made that trip 1,000 times, but it was like this time it was a fresh ride, a brand new first time ever, because everything had changed. Everybody's stuff was gone. It was all washed out in the neighbors or down the creek or up the road. There wasn't nothing left. So we looked at this, and as you know, the more deeper in the hills we got, the worse it was. And we finally got to my uncle's house, and they didn't have any city water because pipelines had busted and or got washed out. I don't think they had electric. All the gas stations were open, but they didn't have gas because they were all flooded out. They were just selling the basics, I guess, that they had on the shelves. And this whole time, there's all these like lineman crews and power companies and all these working guys that keep the lights on for us and do all the behind the scenes stuff. They were the ones that were on the highways. They wasn't just regular traffic. And it was parades of these guys coming in and out, going here and there. So we get up there and we start working. We worked all day, and I'd stopped in Hazard and got lunch for us early for later, because I knew that they didn't have anything. And so we'd worked most of the day. We cleaned mud, we scooped mud, we pushed stuff, we picked stuff up, and it was kind of it wasn't kind of sad. It was sad to see everybody's belongings just either gone or covered in mud. Like my grand and paps, some of their furniture was at his house, and he had to throw it away, and that kind of broke my heart, because the water had soaked into the wood of the furniture, and you couldn't open the drawers, and there was, if you would have, you'd have destroyed it, and it was just sad. But we ended up working all day and cleaning up the mess and helping some of the neighbors a little bit and rerouting the creek, building his backyard up. Cut a tree off his garage that got pushed over. All kinds of stuff we did down there today. And, that was just part of it. But so at the end of the day, it was time for me and Katie to go home. And, excuse me. So we loaded up, and it's edge of dark at this time. And so we get everything strapped down. We get in the truck, and I look down, and my truck's on a quarter tank of diesel. It's a 3/4 ton truck, and I'm pulling a 30-foot gooseneck with a 45, 50 horse John Deere tractor on it, just to give you a visual, a mental visual. So that's a pretty good load. So I got a quarter tank of diesel. The fuel station that was right next to his house wasn't selling anything because of the flood. I'm like, cool, I'll catch something in Hazard. It's about 20, 30 minutes away. I can get there, which was good, but not good. So I get to Hazard. All the main gas stations that stay open 24 hours a day. Well, guess what happened? They were closed at 9 o'clock. So I'm like, well, if I baby this thing, maybe I can make it to Jackson and something will be open there. But if not, my next stop is Natural Bridge. So I am poking all the way up 15 coming back this way and just monitoring this gas situation. And I get to Hazard and everything's closed at 9 o'clock. Jackson was ghost town also because, they'd got hit just as bad as on up in the mountains. And so at this point I'm like, oh, that's like, we're not going to make it home because I have a quarter tank of gas and I am in Isom, Kentucky. It's about a 2.5 hour ride without hauling anything. Maybe 2 hours, whatever. But I had a load. So I am economy driving, hoping to make it to Natural Bridge. Natural Bridge has got a diesel station that's usually open every time I come through there. So that is the big hill at Slade on the Mountain Parkway. I get to the top of it and I'm like, at least I can coast to almost Clay City if I don't, whatever. And because it's a big old tall long hill. It's at Natural Bridge, Kentucky. And we get there. My light has been on since I got on the Mountain Parkway. That's about 45 minutes to Natural Bridge. No, not from the end of the Mountain Parkway.
Not 15.
It's about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm thinking coming the other direction. So my fuel light comes on right before I get to the Mountain Parkway, right after Jackson. And if usually on cars, you got 50 miles left when that light comes on. And it's just a, last warning kind of deal that light is. It's like, hey, buddy, if you haven't noticed, we're out of gas, and I'm going to come on and let you know that you need to stop and get some. So when that light comes on for all you non-gearheads out there, it's usually about 50 miles left before you get anywhere. Okay, that's on normal circumstances, not hauling a tractor and a gooseneck and the weight of the world on you at that time. So I'm coming down the hill at Slade to Natural Bridge exit, and I'm not really hitting the brakes, but I'm slowing down to try to see if that gas station's open because I don't want to lose my momentum because, like I said, it's a big hill and I could have coasted halfway to Powell County from there, halfway through Powell County. And we get down to that exit, and there's a light or two on, but that's it. It's the lights for the exit. It's not the Shell station's closed, and I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So I kept my momentum. I just barely hit the throttle. My light's been on for 15 or 20 minutes already hauling this big old load. So my next thought was, it's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm on 11:30 or something like that. I'm going to have my son on speed dial with a jug of diesel, and I'm just going to go as far as I can go. That's the only thing I knew to do. The only thing I could have done, because there was not a fuel station open from Isom to Winchester. And so from Natural Bridge to the end of the Mountain Parkway, which is right at Winchester, is 45 minutes pretty much with a normal car, no load, no this or that, and not trying to save diesel fuel to get home. And that light, it seemed like it just kept getting brighter and brighter. And I look over at Katie, and she's been asleep the whole time. And I'm over here fighting this battle by myself, this big mental battle, And I'm going down the Mountain Parkway, and I've got my phone done laid up on the console in between us. And I've got Wyatt, my son's phone number pulled up, and I'm getting ready to call him. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know how we're going to get through this one. And we went, and we kept going, and we kept going, and we kept going. We hit the Clark County line, and that means about 15 or 20 more minutes. And we just kept going, and we kept going. And if you've ever been on the Mountain Parkway, I came up on them rumble strips. And them rumble strips at the end of the Mountain Parkway means you're about to hit 64. And I said, I cannot believe I have made it all the way here on a quarter tank of diesel, pulling all this weight. I said, Lord, as soon as I touched 64, I said, Lord, let me make it up to the second Winchester exit, or to the Winchester exit and to the station. I know they're open 24 hours. And we got on the 64 westbound, and I could see the lights. And that truck just kept pulling, and it kept going like nothing was wrong with it. I got off that interstate, and I pulled up to that gas pump, and I think the truck held like 32 gallons. I think I put like 31.89 gallons in or something like. There is only one explanation that I made it from Iceland, Kentucky on a quarter tank of diesel, hauling all that. And that's because there was angels on the tailgate pushing. That's the only thing I know. That's the only way. There's no other way. There's no mechanical way possible to explain that. I mean,
It really was a miracle.
yeah. I was stressed out. I mean, I got a few gray hairs on that trip.
It's like the story of the woman that just had a little bit of oil, and it lasted and lasted and lasted because God, He made your fuel last and last and last.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that story in the Bible.
Yeah.
That was
Till you got to the gas station.
Yeah. That's crazy though. But it looks like we've jabberjawed for another hour. I hope that you enjoyed some more of our testimonies that we've come across in life. We would love to hear you guys either come on and tell you for yourself, because nobody can tell your story like you. And we're here to talk, and spread the word. And if we don't tell our testimonies, non-believers will never figure out Jesus. I mean, they will eventually, somehow, way or another. But I think we're supposed to tell our stories to get their attention a little bit and help out all we can. But
testimonies are a way to make God tangible. He's not tangible to us. We can't reach out. We can't touch Him. We can't see Him. But a testimony is a tangible connection to the Lord. So share it. Send it to our email if you want to write us and tell us your story. goandtellitpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We will read it. We promise.
yeah, we'll read your stories however you write them.
and let everybody know of the things that God has done or is doing in your life currently. And I think everybody needs some positivity in their life, and this is a way to do it. So reach out to us.
Yeah. So I'm going to end it with a verse. It says in Acts 20, verse 24. It says, "However, I consider my life worth nothing to me. My only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me. The task of testifying to the good news of God's grace."
Yep.
Thank you, guys. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.